And happy Friday, PSWs and friends across Ontario and Canada. Welcome to PSW Podcast. My name is Miranda Dolmanovich. I'm the CEO and host of PSW Podcast, where we come to you guys live every single Friday here on Facebook, or streamed over our TikTok profile. And we talk about all the issues pertaining to personal support workers. We talk about the good, the bad, the gray, and we just say it like it is because we don't hold anything back here on PSW Podcast. And yet again, I am joined by my co-host, Ian De Silva, who is the Chief Operating Officer for both the Ontario PSW Association and the Canadian Support Workers Association. And today we are talking about home care.
There. Yes,
Home
big issue,
care.
growing issue, a very important issue. So where do we
Yes.
want to start this morning?
So let's talk about home care. So for those of you that are members of the public that maybe are not personal support workers, that are kind of curious as to what home care is. So home care is where someone in the community is requiring care. They need help with their activities of daily living. Many times it will be the personal support worker that goes into the home in order to assist these individuals with whatever they need, where it be from, mobility, dressing, eating, toileting, personal care, anything above those, toileting, showering, anything you do for yourself in a day is what the PSW does. And so home care in Ontario is kind of, I like to call it Pandora's box. It's very confusing for a lot of people, and it's very not regulated, shall I say.
Yeah, there are some acts that they're bringing in about it, and there is an act on the Home Care Act. But I think we're going to talk today about, instead of anything about acting, we're going to talk about what's actually happening. So let's
Exactly.
talk about that. So, notwithstanding policy intentions, what's
But
happening?
policy, we're going to lose viewers. So we're because that's the boring part of the association is policy surrounding anything. Yeah. So
So we're going to talk
anyways,
about experiences that we've been encountering and narratives and elements that we're seeing on the front lines.
no, absolutely.
Okay,
So in Ontario, you can obtain home care through publicly funded, which are companies that are given money basically by the government to provide free care to Ontarians, in their time of need. Then you have the private companies, which these are typically, I find, they're franchises, and they're privately owned, and they just do direct pay care. So the family pays directly to the agency in order to get care from the PSW. And then, of course, you have my favorite, the entrepreneurial PSWs that actually work for themselves. Some have started their own businesses and they're out there in our community supporting their communities. So those are really the three main aspects of home care in Ontario. And oh boy, the stories we hear about home care.
Well, yeah, and there's a lot of different elements because there's no real one narrative that can be expressed across Ontario. So there's 12 million people in Ontario. Yeah, there's about a million different experiences in home care. Start with the good though. Like there are some amazing companies out there that are doing well. So I think it's important that we look at what makes I don't want to simplify it, but what's a generally should be a good home care company versus what is a bad home care provider where they're doing it wrong. So an example of a good one would be a situation where you're getting continuity of care. So there's a few of them. When do we find those examples tended?
Those examples, honestly, and I'm going to call out a home care company right now for their absolutely what we hear back from the public and from the PSWs for their stellar care is SE Health. I know not everyone's going to have great experiences with SE Health. I mean, there's the good, the bad. But where SE Health is concerned is they really have a really big focus. I find companies that are successful have a very strong focus on their front line. So they're not so much focused on the bureaucracy within the company or the higher ups. They're more so focused on the front line who is delivering that care. SE Health is one of those. I mean, last week, Nicole and I were at one of their skill days in Windsor, and we got to meet so many PSWs, hundreds of PSWs, and they had nothing but good things to say about SE Health and their experiences working for them. And then you have other companies that not
Well,
necessarily,
we're not naming the
and I'm
company.
not naming any of the
We're not
bad ones, but not necessarily have good experiences with those. And, the interesting part here at the association, for everyone who's watching, is Ian and I and Nicole and everyone else that works for OPSWA, we really have this innate kind of ability to stand back and hear from each kind of people affected. So we hear things from the PSWs, we hear things from the public, and we also hear things from the employers. And so it's a very interesting kind of dynamic when we actually sit back and we look at the actual issues when it comes to home care. Now, home care being one of the largest groups of PSWs, it goes long-term care and then home care, if not flipped. I mean, the majority of care in the province of Ontario is performed by personal support workers. So, it's always interesting to hear things, because then you have home care companies where they don't focus on the bottom line, they don't focus on the client, they don't focus on the personal support workers. And that's where we're seeing the huge gaps in Ontario, because they're not getting that, as you said before, Ian, the continuity of care. They're not getting, and continuity is so important, especially in home care, because who's knocking at your front door?
Well, and let's give a shout out to Nucleus. I mean, here's a company that's completely embraced that model of who's knocking at your front door. They also have an excellent uh, policy when it comes to how they hire their PSWs. One thing we've noticed as an association is that the better experiences seem to come from companies that have permanent staff on file. It's not based strictly on, and this is some others where how far you go, but it's like you get paid a set wage to visit these number of clients, you get continuity of care, stable PSW employment, stable situations. It seems to work well. Then you get the other side, which
Then you
is
get the other
then
side.
you get the other side. So shout out to those who are doing things well. There's a lot more out there, and there's a lot of companies that are doing good. But I mean, we're getting a lot of experiences, and a lot of it's coming from patients in the care system. So shout outs to those who deserve it. But let's talk about where the gaps are.
Oh, sure,
Get to the
absolutely.
gaps.
There's so many gaps. I mean, I
Yeah,
think at this
dive
point
in.
it's a holy sock at this point. I mean, like there's, it's, where home care, where it's lacking, number one is, the cost, I think is a huge problem if you're talking private care for families across Ontario. I think when you're dealing with Ontario Health, when you're talking about the publicly funded, you're dealing with Ontario Health. Ontario Health goes into the home. And I'm coming from this from a perspective of where I'm actually currently going through this with my aunt who is receiving care from my uncle who has dementia. And it's been one hell, and I say hell strongly, of a ride for my aunt. She finally finds a home care company where they got a PSW in there. And this is after like a rigmarole through Ontario Health. Actually, Ontario Health was wonderful, I'm going to say, with her. But then getting the coordinator in there, getting the care, getting the PSW in there was ridiculous. My aunt, and for a lot of PSWs that are watching, they're going to be like, oh, wow, my aunt wants care in the afternoon. She doesn't want care in the mornings because my uncle sleeps in the mornings. He has dementia. She wants care in the afternoon. So when he's awake, so then they're able to come in and give him a shower or whatever. And then he goes and he passes out again, right? He goes back to sleep. And do you think my aunt can get that care in the afternoons? She was promised a 1 p.m. start. And they only come in 3 days a week, by the way. She was promised 7 hours a week. She's only receiving three.
Why?
They're not giving her a reason. And when she goes to call her direct coordinator with the company that is providing the care, you think she can get a phone call back? No. And I hate to say this, and people might balk at me, but yeah, we did step in as the association. And that was the only time that coordinator actually called her back. And things were okay for a little while. But now it looks like we're going to have to make another phone call because now she still can't get the care. And just visiting with her, and because I saw her last week, visiting with her and seeing my uncle, and you know it's really taking a toll, and I think we forget about that as a society, the toll that not having this continuity, not having that proper schedule, not having somebody to actually listen to them and take that into account, it takes a toll on the caregiver, and like massively on the caregiver. She's like, I can't schedule my she does Irish dancing. She's like, I can't schedule that. I want to do this, I want to do that. And she's been the caregiver for my uncle on her own for many, many years before she actually finally um she's
Well,
stubborn like me. So she finally gave in and called me, and I was able to help guide her through it. But it's so, and this is a lot of families.
yeah, and that's what, yeah, and it's funny because the government has allocated resources to provide that minimum hour of care a week. So the budgetary amount is there, it's been spent, it's been allocated. So it's not a question that that money's not available. So where is this disconnect happening with it? It seems to be a lot of issues with coordinating of care. Now, I honestly, I'm speaking from ignorance here. I don't know specifically what pressures coordinators are under. And I'm guessing it's quite substantial because you got an important job. But I also think that some of them are being hamstrung by their inability to go beyond certain companies that they're allowed to hire from.
No, that's another huge
That's a
factor.
huge thing we're seeing too. So, like, take it away.
Well, I mean, I myself was a care coordinator for an unnamed home care company 7 years ago.
Yeah,
And so was Nicole, our director of operations. She was a care coordinator as well for an unnamed company.
it's been longer than 7 years, Marina. Probably like 10 now, I think.
Was it 10 years I was or
Probably
eight?
because you, yeah,
Oh hell. It
yeah,
was a while ago. But
well,
the same problem still existed at that time.
yeah.
And the interesting part to me was I never had a problem scheduling the PSWs. Because what I did is I looked at it as who's closer to who. So instead of scheduling from the client's house, I scheduled from the PSW's house,
Which makes sense.
which makes sense. And I
Right.
said, what clients are in this kilometer radius of that PSW? And that worked bloody brilliantly.
Yeah.
But then also in speaking with Nicole, because I had a conversation with her this morning, she said, as a care coordinator herself, there is no reason why these shifts cannot be filled. There's no reason to move them around. So again, I think again what we're looking at is kind of going back into that whole, we've talked about it so many times on the PSW podcast, the bullying aspect, the bureaucracy issues, the higher ups, middle management, shall I say,
Yeah.
that just make these decisions because they can, because there's no oversight over them. And it just runs amok.
Well,
I
that
mean,
might,
that's what I saw. That's what
yeah.
Nicole saw you know and these companies, can I talk about this for a second? These companies that hire these schedulers that are in Saskatchewan, when we're here in Ontario, I worked in home care for unnamed company for quite a few years,
Yeah.
and I live in the KW region, for those of you who know KW region. And I had to get to a client. It was a night shift. I had to get a client. I didn't know where the hell I was. This was many, many moons ago, so this was over 10 years ago. And so GPS was a thing, but not really. And so I called the coordinator or not the coordinator, but the on-call scheduler, so that she could help me figure out where the hell I was going.
Right.
And when I called her, she was like, well, you just have to go up here and then you have to go there and this and that. And I said, well, that makes no sense. I said, what are you talking about? Where you? She goes, well, I'm in Saskatchewan, so I'm not really familiar with your area. And I remember thinking to myself, hell, do you have a scheduler from Saskatchewan trying to tell someone in Ontario who's actively on the road heading for a client where I need to go?
Yeah, that's better for the company. That's where you start seeing the company's putting its own operations and its own operational efficiencies ahead of service. And that's a clear example of that. So for a lot of coordinators, so I think I think there's a lot of confusion. So you call Ontario Health, because right now in Ontario we have the Ontario Health teams, which are a little bit seem to be a little working a little better than the previous LHIN model. Uh,
Yeah.
but like the schedulers, are they government employees or does the government hire companies to do the scheduling on their behalf? That's something I'm not 100% on in all cases. And
No idea. No
no,
idea. And the scheduling, to be honest, is done in the individual. It's not done through Ontario Health. It's done through the individual home care companies.
which is the concern then. So the responsibility for providing care has been downloaded onto the onto a
Onto, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I think that would be definitely a problem though, because you're going to have that company prioritizing its profit margin over any sort of delivery care model. Like that's
Exactly.
going to be exactly it, right?
Well, I had a PSW say to me the other day, she says, I always get asked by my clients, like I'm scheduled for an hour, but I'm only here for 45 minutes. And I said, well, what do you answer? She goes, well, because I have to leave so I can get to the next client by, let's say they were there from 9 to 9:45, but then they're due the next client at 10 o'clock. But the company's getting paid for that hour
Oh yeah, it's getting full pay and more than the PSW gets paid. By
and way more than the PSW is getting paid. And I mean, I've seen schedules from PSWs over the years where they literally, I was like, do they want you to teleport? Like it was literally like 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12. I'm thinking, you got to be kidding me.
yeah,
And even my aunt said to me that because she has her favorite, it's a male PSW. He's fantastic with my uncle. He's across town. He's scheduled for her at 2 o'clock, but he's all the way across town to someone else. Make that make sense. Why are they making this so difficult? I'm not comprehending. Like, I get it's, the company's bottom line, they want to make money. And let me tell everyone who's watching this, these
because
companies make a killer,
they make a fortune
a
out of it.
fortune off this.
And,
Yes.
and and a lot of the times and the sad part is that they're preying on people when they're at their weakest. So the companies that are out there that are doing this, you guys have a lot to answer for. But at the end of the day, you're basically prioritizing your profits and you're taking advantage of people who are in their worst and counting on them not to follow up on the service provisions.
When did healthcare become a profit business?
It's
And
it's
it has become that
it
a
has
big time over the last 20 years. We've really seen a move into healthcare becoming a for-profit element in our society, where we're seeing the patient care fall to the wayside and arguments in the hierarchy happen. And it's like I always say, like, we fight for PSWs, but at the end of the day, we're fighting for the clients and the patients and the residents because they have a
exactly
voice too.
exactly.
And, so I mean, okay, so we can talk about home care. I think we got that part done. But what I really want to talk about is I want to talk about the PSWs doing home care, because I'm about to call out some PSWs.
I think that needs to be done too. I've heard some
I think
stories.
absolutely that needs to be done. So we have some fantastic personal support workers who work in home care, who go above and beyond, who honestly, you guys are angels, and you drive through snow and rain and everything to get to these people. And I admire you greatly. You are truly, I did home care for 2 years as a PSW. And I'm going to be honest, I hated every minute of it. I loved my clients, but I hated the job. I did not like home care. That was not my vibe. That was not my jam. I'm a long-term care girly. So, these people that do home care, amazing. One girl yesterday on our TikTok live, she mentioned, she goes, I love doing weekends in home care because it's not rushed and I get to give that extra time to my clients. Well, why the hell can't we do that all throughout the week? Like, I'm like, why just weekends? But anyways, I digress.
And you hear the stories of like I'm not going to name where anything is, but a member of my family lives in a senior citizens building, and when he goes down in the lobby is filled with PSWs on their phones.
Uh-huh.
He's like, there's about 20 down there, all on their phones. They've all been scheduled to provide care to the clients in the building, but none of them are in the apartment. They're all in the bay, all in the lobby on their phones. And he asks them, and the answers are, I'm not unionized and I got no one overseeing me. I can do what I want.
Okay, so let's talk about that.
So that's something else we get. So the other flip side of it is then it starts making all PSWs look bad because you got these guys sitting on their phone all day.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so my grandmother had PSWs when she was alive. God bless her. It's been a long time now, but I remember that she lived in Peterborough, and I went to Peterborough to visit her. And I knew the PSW was going to be there at the time. This is the beginnings of OPSWA. And I basically snuck into her house. And my Oma was sitting on the couch watching TV, or in her favorite chair because it was Young and the Restless. She had to watch it midday. And there was the PSW was sitting at my Oma's table, her kitchen table, painting her nails with my Oma's nail polish. She was not engaging with my Oma. She was eating food out of my Oma's fridge. My Oma had glaucoma, so she couldn't see very well. And this PSW took full advantage of that.
Yeah.
And I went in and I absolutely ripped a new one of this PSW because I was doing home care at the same time. So you can't tell me that my Oma gave you permission to use her nail polish. I don't see my Oma doing that. I don't see my Oma saying, yeah, go into the fridge and help yourself. My Oma was a very strong Dutch woman, and that would not have happened, and then
Not if she lived through a war
no, she did live
faced
through
with
a war. Absolutely.
faced with deprivations that no one can imagine. So that generation's like, I'm not sure.
I'm not sharing my food.
I
Exactly.
won't.
They
Yeah, I remember
refused
that.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to the P, and then we got PSWs that are showing up for their shifts. You know, it's simple. Okay, if it's not in the care plan, I get it. But if there is a freaking plate on the counter in the kitchen, and this person, you're caring for them, and you go into the kitchen and you see this plate,
But it,
put it in the dishwasher. Like, how hard is it just to do little things for the clients.
Yeah.
Because how many times do we hear, oh, it wasn't in the care plan? Or can I just talk about that one? Oh, it wasn't in the care plan. Or can I just talk about that one? I'm not naming names, but I'm going to give the situation that was brought to the association where the electricity was out in the building for home care. There was two PSWs to care for this individual.
That's right. Yeah.
This individual let them into the building, but there was no power, and this individual lived on the 10th floor.
Right. Okay.
And he had a catheter, but it was like disposable catheter, so he'd need a new one like all the time.
You need to know.
Anyways, and so when the PSWs got there, and there was two of them, he asked if they go up to the apartment because the elevator wasn't working to grab another catheter. The PSW, the one that emailed us about this, she's not a member, I'm going to point that out. She emailed us and said, she had really bad period cramps, and that's why she couldn't go up the stairs to get this thing for her client.
But there's two of them.
When asked about the second person, she said, well, she's in her 50s. Okay. And now they're in trouble with their employer. Good.
I
Good.
agree.
Because if you're there, I mean, they stood like, I couldn't believe, honest to God, I've never seen Nicole so mad.
Well,
And
okay, let's take a step back there. Is walking up that many flights of stairs normal? No.
no,
Does it mean you have to be up those flights of stairs in 6 seconds? No, you do it
no,
slowly, but you make an effort to go up those stairs.
you're
Like,
you're
come
there to
on,
care for the client. Like, come on.
come on. Yeah, it's outrageous. And then when you're done caring for the client, then you can go back to your employer and say, listen, this is going to be a health and safety issue if this keeps going on for any much longer.
You know what
Making
else they did? They offered to call 911 to
well,
get the paramedics to go up the 10 flights of stairs.
yeah, okay, that's a tough one because you're like, there's no reason why you couldn't go up the stairs.
There really isn't. Don't tell me that period cramps, as a woman myself, keeps you from actually performing your job. And it can. And I'll give that to
Oh, no,
some
I
of the
can.
women out there.
I think it can. Yeah,
Absolutely, it can. But there's two of you.
yeah. I'm at a loss to this one. But
Yeah, I was, so was I.
this is where this is the issues that we're getting in home care. You're getting this. There's no standards. There's a lot of confusion. PSWs. Yes, you can say no to certain things when it's your health and safety, but slowly going up a staircase, unless your doctor says you have a cardiovascular issue and you are not to stress yourself out like that, then no problem.
The employer would know about it. So when the employer confronted
Exactly.
them, because eventually a manager showed up and the manager went upstairs to get it for the client. Be
Go
embarrassed.
to the manager. I mean, normally healthcare managers don't do that, but
Kudos to the manager. But I
to
mean, like,
that manager, whoever
as
that.
a PSW, I would be so embarrassed with myself. I would be upset with myself if I couldn't do that, because we don't take an oath as a PSW, although we should. But we do take a bit of a silent oath. And that oath, like, we choose to care for the most vulnerable. If you don't want to do that, then I don't want you in this field, because this is why you become a PSW, is because you choose to care for society's most vulnerable. And that comes with difficult tasks, and it comes with difficult situations, and it comes with things where you're going to have to do things sometimes that you don't want to necessarily do. Don't get me wrong. You asked me to walk up 10 flights of stairs, I ain't doing it. But if my client asked me, or if it was medical, I damn well would. I'd take my time, but I would do it.
Yeah, you take your time.
Mhm.
Like you're doing your best. As long as you make an effort, you can. Yeah, I think we've made our point on this. I don't want
We
to.
definitely have. I'm just
These
going to say one
individuals.
more thing, though, about
Yeah,
these
go ahead.
PSWs. Keep your phones in your pocket, keep them on silent, and take your earbuds out of your ears.
Yeah, this is getting. I mean, this is not even a new problem. Like we've had like PSWs have always, ever since we've started doing home care in the last 40 years, you've always been allowed to watch TV with your clients. There's nothing
Oh,
wrong.
yeah.
Like no problem. If your client's watching TV and there's a magazine, you're allowed to read it. Like you can sit there as long as you're trying to interact. When you're on your phone, you are not interacting with anyone but your phone, whoever's on the other line. Everyone knows that. You're not fooling anybody by saying, "Oh, I'm on my phone," but I'm doesn't matter what you're doing, your attention is not on your job. So I mean, in any job in the world, you're not on your phone all day or you get in trouble. This has to translate into home care as well. So it's a big thing that really gets my back up when you see this. Now that makes me wonder about these companies. Are they hiring actual PSWs or are they hiring people with no training that simply don't know any better?
And that's another thing, right? When you're going through the public health care, so through, like, the public home care, they have to hire a personal support worker. And HSWs, there are home support workers as
Yep.
well, and we can do a whole other podcast on that because I know the PSWs want us to.
Yeah, yeah, we
Um,
can do that for sure.
but when it comes to private home care companies, there's nothing stating that they have to hire PSW. And that's why we always say, like, we have a lot of really great home care companies that are members of the association, and they ensure that their PSWs are OPSWA. They have the liability insurance, they have the badge, they have everything they need. And it's not so much even for the PSW or for the company, but they're doing it for the clients. So the clients have that confidence in who's knocking at their front door and going in to perform the care, right?
Yeah.
But then you have other companies that are like, oh, Billy Bob Joe, he was really good with my grandfather. I'm going to hire him to go into other people's home. It doesn't matter if he has a criminal record. This happens, people.
I know,
We're
I
not
know.
even kidding, and
No, no.
it blows my mind. It blows my mind.
Again, we're
So,
not against giving people second chances in this world, but at the end of the day,
well,
it's like we're fooling ourselves if we think like things like the VSS are acting as guarantors of public safety. That's the one issue that we're dealing with. We're like, everyone's like, "Oh no, I got my VSS." I'm like, "Yeah, anyone can get your VSS. It's easy. It is the easiest document to get approved.
not your criminal record
It's not
check.
your criminal record. It's brilliantly marketed, but completely useless.
Oh yeah,
But
absolutely. I agree.
companies look at it. Oh, I got my VSS. That means I've done my job. Okay.
It's scary. It's scary. I mean, honestly, the reality of it is, and this is my hopes with HESCAPOA, the new regulatory kind of pseudo regulatory for PSWs in Ontario. My hopes for them is that we can curb some of this and ensure that the good PSWs are recognized for the hard work that they do, and that the bad apples get thrown back in the orchard because we don't want them, and we definitely don't want them with our patients, clients, and residents. And so that is my hope, because some people do look at this like yesterday on TikTok again. They were sharing about how people are showing up with, uh, this one client, they said a PSW showed up with a suitcase and stole a bunch of stuff from them. But it wasn't on camera and there was no proof. So the company didn't move forward with it. Like, PSWs are not dispensable. Clients need to be respected, especially in their homes, everywhere for that record.
Clients, and take after your aunt. They need to stand up for themselves.
Yes,
Happy
my
with
aunt is one hell of an advocate. I'll give it to her. She didn't like becoming that advocate, but she dug deep. I figure I get it from her, and she really just nailed it. And just she goes after them, because you have to become an advocate in your own home. And we always invite members of the public, even PSWs. If you guys have questions, concerns, come to the association. I mean, we can't move mountains necessarily, but we can definitely ruffle some feathers, and we've been very
well, it's just
successful.
yeah, sometimes it takes is sometimes the powers that be are not aware of an issue, despite the fact that they have to do and they need to be made aware of it, and if they are, then action can be taken. But again, if you're experiencing things like this, I mean, please contact us. We are working to identify and remedy this problem across Ontario. So
Funny enough, we don't get any complaints about our entrepreneurial PSWs. Knock on wood.
no, no, then that's a good option too. I mean, there's a lot of fluff in home care delivery. I think for a lot of different elements, and
Mhm.
yeah, I think this time should we're at an opportunity to change this. So let's see if we can.
I
Oh,
think PSWs can be that change. We need to stop being afraid to say things and stop being afraid to lose our jobs. Stop being afraid to advocate. So, and I get it. I get it all, honestly.
it's easy
Um,
to say because I mean, if it's your livelihood and you got rents to pay, but it can be extremely impossible sometimes to move. But
we're also happy to do it on your behalf.
and anonymously. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
again, we do need to know these things, and so does the regulator in Ontario. So
exactly. So this was a really interesting conversation. I mean, a lot about home care. I don't think when we picked this topic the other day, Ian, that we knew that was going to be so.
it's a huge issue. I mean, there's
Yeah.
so many different facets that are involved in the delivery of home care, and every story is different. So it's impossible to put a uniform practice, but we can do better. We can do
We
better.
absolutely can. And I doubt that this will be the last time we talk about home care.
Oh no,
So, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, so that's it for PSW podcast for today, ladies and gentlemen. Ian has one more thing to say.
I was just going to say we keep in tune. We are introducing a new type of assistance to the autism community. So I don't remember the name of the code. So Marina,
Called
sorry.
PSW the Autism Community Support Provider. It's
Yeah.
going to be a formal designation for PSWs that complete 3 of the OPSWA courses, de-escalation, autism, mastering autism care, and mental health. And you'll be able to call yourself that Autism Community Support Provider.
Right.
Yeah, so that's
There's
going to be coming out next week.
and we've heard a lot of people, of parents and adults looking for this care that can't get it through the traditional sources because of shortages. So we're trying to help make the process a little easier.
Exactly,
That's all I
exactly.
need to say.
Oh, great, because I forgot about it. So thank you very much.
Your line
So
stone.
so anyways, everyone, that's it for PSW Podcast today, November 7th, 2025. I want to thank you all for joining us again for PSW Podcast. Ian and I will be back again next Friday at 11 a.m. for another PSW Podcast. What are we going to talk about? I don't know. But remember, we're always streaming live here on Facebook, and we're streaming, of course, on TikTok. I will be heading over to TikTok after this is done so that I can do a Q&A and answer any questions that PSWs might have. So our TikTok will pause just for a few seconds while I move the camera around. And yeah, hey, if you guys have anything that you want us to discuss, if
Yes.
you want to hear about the grisly stuff behind the scenes and you don't want to say it, but you want us to say it, not a problem. I'm always happy to offer that. So if you do, make sure to email us, message us here on Facebook or on TikTok, and we'll make sure to add it to one of our next PSW podcasts. Thanks very much again, Mr. Ian, for joining me for
Pleasure.
PSW Podcast.
Okay.
And with that, we're going to say,
Uh,
OPSWA out.